Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the Cosmos Safari podcast. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Fraser Cain. Fraser is the founder and publisher of Universe Today, a hugely popular online resource that's been bringing space and astronomy to the world for over 2 decades. He's also the co-host of Astronomy Cast podcast and the host of the long-running Virtual Star Party series, which started all the way back in 2012, from what I can tell. Today, we're going to dive into the evolution of virtual astronomy and how technology has changed that game, and what the future holds for bringing the cosmos into everybody's living room or on your phone in that device or whatever we end up having in the future. Fraser, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while. It's been since, I think, 2020 since we really last spoke.
Yeah.
How's it been going? You've been pretty busy?
Oh, yeah. I've been very busy. We've had some really dramatic changes that have impacted just the publishing industry. I mean, the rise of artificial intelligence, large language models, and AI has just been bananas on the amount of content that's out there, the quality of the content, the discourse, how publishing works these days, how things are monetized. Like being a publisher in this world today is really tricky, and the sources of revenue are drying up very, very quickly. We're seeing a lot of publishers go out of business, and we were kind of on the same trajectory. I would say 6 months ago, I was sort of figuring out how I was going to wrap up Universe Today, because the trajectory was clearly in free fall, and my advertising revenue had dropped by about 90% over the last 3 years or so. And it was just like not sustainable. Like I couldn't do this and hire people and continue to do the level of reporting that we did. And about 6 months ago, I was like, okay, I had sort of was honest with everybody, our audience, and just said like, this is what we face. And so I'm going to remove all the ads from the website, because they don't pay us very much anyway, and make a dramatically cleaner existence. No ads in the podcast, no ads on the newsletter. Everything's going to be free. Creative Commons 4.0, use it for whatever you want, but we need to have patrons instead. And so the way we make this work is that you sort of donate on a regular basis to produce the content that we do. And the community responded perfectly. It was amazing. Great. And overnight, what was an existential threat was now, okay, I can work with this, right? This is sustainable. I can continue to pay the salaries of all the journalists. I can pay the salaries of the people that work on our videos, that produce our podcasts. I don't quite draw a salary, but that's fine. That's how it works as the owner of the business in this sort of crisis. And then we sort of are at the other side of this now. So things feel really good and totally sustainable. And so now, instead of me having to deal with the whims of the publishing industry, of Google taking away the clicks and replacing it with AI overviews, the absolute rise of endless amounts of AI slop, the increasing control by the advertisers, social media companies trying to turn everything into walled gardens. Like there's all of these forces that are working against being able to spend time and energy and knowledge and expertise in producing space and astronomy news, and shifting into whatever is this sort of mass media garbage that is being generated. We're able to now just rise above it, and I don't have to think about any of it anymore. I just like, every day I just think, what is the best coverage that we can do for our audience? How do we get there? And I don't really think about anything else, which is great.
Now, that being said, have you been using AI in any ways that are beneficial to you as kind of like a way of capturing what you do?
So yeah, I am not an anti-AI person. I am an anti-bad use of AI person.
Right.
And so there are perfectly responsible ways that you can use AI. It's fairly nuanced. So you can have the AI help you understand a concept or understand research, but you have to realize that it's a lying liar that lies. And so you need to double check the things that it's telling you to make sure that you're not falling into some kind of trap with it hallucinating. You can have it to clean up your grammar, fix your spelling mistakes, but don't let it write for you, because it is a very, very bad writer. You can have it help you create software, but don't think that you're going to create software that's going to be bulletproof and secure and able to stand the test of time. You're looking for stuff that's throwaway, that's going to allow you to quickly, pull something together that solves a problem that you have right now, and then you can just dispose of it. Don't have it draw pictures for you, because it is, the intellectual property has been,
Yes, definitely.
has been strip mined for the ability to draw these pictures. Don't make it generate video for you. Same thing, right? Which is
Right.
that we are not confident on the intellectual property that's been used to train these things. So I think that we're in this sort of weird time where it's not great and has some interesting value that you can bring to the table. But I think a lot of people are just overly relying on it. They're saying, this is a magic tool that does everything that we need, and now we can just let it pump out article after article, but it's creating garbage.
Right.
And
Right.
I think in the near term, this is going to negatively impact the audience, that people, and I see this already, people go to YouTube and they're trying to look for videos to watch about important things that are happening right now, like the Comet 3i Atlas that is passing through the solar system. And they are finding tons and tons of AI slop videos and people that are just making nonsense. And then they don't know what's true anymore.
Right.
And we're over here going, okay, everything we do is human made. We're very carefully trying to curate this news, and we just are lost in the noise. And so it's really hard for people to know what's good, what's bad, and so on. So yeah, it's a pretty tricky time. I don't have a problem with people using AI. I just have problem with people using AI badly.
Yep. I'm using it mostly to capture what I say,
Mm,
because I've been doing a lot more off the cuff type of content. So I'm not, for a while I had, been typing up a script even at sometimes, and I've gotten away from that. I mean, I teach during the day. I talk for a living. I don't really have a problem with
yep.
just thinking on my feet. And so I've kind of been freed of the shackles of a script and a teleprompter, which has been
Me
amazing.
too. Yep.
And
Yeah. I,
that
I haven't sort of pulled up my teleprompter in a long, long time. That everything I do is now just a bunch of notes, and then I just freeform.
right, bullet points and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I've let it kind of read and transcribe my videos, and then from there it's been doing a number of things. It's been helping me with descriptions. It's been helping me determine where are good areas for chapters in my
Mm, sure.
content.
Yeah,
um,
that's all just grunt work that
right,
you would have to do, and you wouldn't even have to put a lot of thought into it. So that all
exactly.
sounds perfectly fine to me.
Speaking about smart technology, back in 2020, when we first kind of crossed paths, I had joined, I think it was three different star parties or
Mm,
live telescope viewing sessions. And I, coming to this conversation today, I just kind of wanted to get an understanding of where you're at with the smart telescope game, and how you kind of see how this has changed our ability to share our universe with everyone,
mm,
and how it has changed from the person who's trying to run said Star Watch, uh, to complicate, or not to complicate, but to simplify, I should say, the process of actually getting up and
mm.
running. Because I remember, although I was on three separate live telescope viewing sessions, I wasn't very productive for you in those sessions because I kept having problems with my gear.
Yep.
And so this is a different world that we live in now. And
I'd say it's pretty close still. It's a little better, but
yeah,
not much.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, what you're talking about are the virtual star parties when we were broadcasting live views from telescopes out onto the internet, and people were, we were hanging out and chatting about them and switching to different pictures and showing them off and taking requests and all of that kind of stuff, right? And it was wonderful. Like, it was really resonating with the audience and people really enjoyed it. But technically, it was brutal to try to bring these things together. You had the individual astronomers who had better and worse personalities in just being able to, had better and less experience in being able to present information to an audience. And then they had the challenges that they had to deal with the gear, which was distracting them, so that they were like, am I talking right now, or am I wrestling with my gear? And it was a very challenging experience to make the whole thing run very smoothly. And then you had the weather variation. So somebody might be really good and ready to go and got great gear, but they've got bad weather, so they can't show up.
Yep.
And then it's just it's a very challenging onus on people to have them be able to show up and do this work. So it was, it went great for a couple of years, and then eventually it just got to the point where I would have 20 astronomers in the list who I had sent the notification for them to show up if they could, and nobody would show up for whatever
Right.
reason. People were busy, gear wasn't working, weather was bad, they just didn't want to do it, whatever, which is fine. Everybody was volunteers, including me. So it's not like we were, there were it's not like anybody's job to do this. So we tried, so we went for about 3 or 4 years, and then we wrapped it up just because it was too difficult. And then it's funny, my friend Dylan O'Donnell in Australia tried to do the same thing, same model. Just let's organize some people, let's show our telescopes. And he also was like, nope, I can't do this anymore. This too much herding cats. And then Nancy Graziano, who was a producer for us, really loved the star parties, and she was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to herd the cats. And we tried again, and we went for a couple of months, and then she was like, nope, I'm out. I can't do it. So we had to wrap it up again. And then about 5 years ago, Oceanside Photo and Telescope, when it was a thing, the leader of OPT, sort of offered a telescope that I could use permanently, like, when he wasn't using it. And then I could just sort of remote in and be able to actually use the telescope. And that worked pretty well. But we still had the weather issues, and so if the weather was good, then it was great, and if it wasn't, it was. But we ran into all kinds of technical issues, and it was pretty far off the grid. And the Wi-Fi was pretty bad, and so it was a very frustrating experience. And then most recently, maybe about a year and a half ago, I talked to Starfront, which is a new co-location telescope facility out of Texas, and they were really excited about the idea of me being able to do live streams from their telescopes and be able to share this with the world. And then obviously, people would find out about what they're doing at Starfront. And they gave me access to a couple of great telescopes. One was a Celestron First Star. No, is that it? First Scope? First Star?
The one that's the new smart telescope?
Yeah, their smart telescope. Yeah.
The Origin.
The Origins. That's it. Yeah. So I had a Celestron Origins. And then they had a planetary scope that they were letting me use. And both had just so many problems. Like, they were amazing telescopes, but Celestron, the only way you can control the Origins telescope is with an app. And so you have to run the app virtually inside of a computer. And then the app tries to obfuscate where the files are being stored on the computer. So it's really hard to get the images off of the computer and display them. It was a technical nightmare to be able to try to do this and be able to put on a show at the same time. Like, I can either focus on working my way through the technical challenges to be able to deal with this, or I can share stuff with people. So, and then the goal was to then get more telescopes, but then we just ran into the same problem, which was trying to get people who would show up on time and have their gear ready and have their weather was good and be able to do this. So, we were kind of lurching forward in that path. And so we're on hiatus again. There's a new idea that we're working on where we may be able to use sea stars, which are really cool telescopes. I've got one behind me right there. And that people would be able to, we could have an interface that's very usable and
Sure.
and anyone can kind of log in and use it. And then we don't have to worry about the different gear. Everybody gets a sea star, and we all will point at different targets and see what we can see and have a good time and just chat about it. And so that's sort of the most modern implementation of the idea. But the sea stars are the same thing as the Origins, which is that they're designed to be controlled through a phone or on a computer. They're not designed to be controlled remotely. And so I've been spending the last 6 months or so trying to hack together and figure out a way that you can control the sea star remotely through the internet in a way that is a nice, reliable easy to use experience so that people can come together to use these telescopes and be able to live stream them. And I have not solved this problem yet. So we are currently on hiatus again while we try to figure out. And like what all we need is a easy telescope that's accessible from the internet that you can let anybody log in and use, and they can just control the telescope, and the pipeline is very simple to do, and the files are deposited in a certain place. It's not that complicated when you consider how sophisticated all of the other parts of the puzzle are. And yet here we are, 13 years ago, 13 years after we started doing the virtual star parties. And I always kind of feel like I'm back to square one. And this is, of course, because I am using there's no budget, right? It's not like anyone's giving me money to do this kind of thing. I'm just trying to figure this out through by any means necessary. And so this is where we are now.
All right. So is the C star that you're hoping to use the one behind you, or are you trying to offload that to a different location?
Yeah. So this is a thing that I'm trying to do with Starfront, because they've got C stars in their facility. And so, but they're designed to work with a phone, with a phone or a computer. They're not designed to be easily accessible from a remote through the internet in a way that is reliable and easy to use and doesn't give you sort of too much control over the device and so on. So like how do you let a person come in, control a C star, and then move on? So we're still kind of, trying to figure this out. We'll figure it out at some point.
I did visit their website because I noticed that you had been using their facilities for this purpose of doing the live telescope viewing, and it does show up on their website as an option. So they're capable of doing it to some degree, but is it
they're getting
the
there.
live streaming component that's the most challenging part?
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So if you had, a dream of what this would look like from like a software perspective, like what would it be able to do that it's currently not doing?
Well, so I mean, the dream is that you take a bunch of people who are interested in astronomy and you give them a login so they can log into a telescope, and the telescope has a very easy to use interface that allows them to pick targets and then watch the images be created in front of them, and then they download them and keep them. That's it. That's it. And share what they're doing in a way that can then be pulled together into a larger show.
Right. So like I'm using I've used the Dwarf 3. I've talked to some people about the C star, but I haven't ever had a chance to work with one of myself at this point. But I'm very familiar with the ZWO's interface and how that works. I currently have a Smart Eye, which is pretty neat. So the one thing that I'm kind of noticing that's different about that is that it does have the ASCOM alpaca mode, so you can shift over to doing more of a traditional imaging type of thing. So I and control it from various different interfaces. So that might be an option that I'm going to be looking at, because the reason I asked you about this is because I'm a glutton for punishment also, and have considered, starting to do some live observing myself.
Yeah,
so
sounds great.
Using my StreamYard here that I'm currently working on to make the podcast, I could do live streaming. I just don't do it very often.
Yeah,
so,
no, like I think if it's one person with dark skies and the telescope is nearby, then I think it's a relatively easy experience.
Right.
But if you're trying to pull together, like the point with the star parties is we were trying to pull together multiple people at the same time to make an experience.
I'm
different from
thinking,
one person.
Just trying to conceive of a way that people could share within these platforms, like if it's going to be through a phone, it's one thing to go to like Starfront and try to connect to them separately, but if each person has their telescope with them, it would be nice if some of these software that are running these devices would have an integrated ability to kind of join together, and a room that you could join.
Yeah, they just don't like I think they just don't. It doesn't occur to them, it doesn't occur to ZWO that makes the C star that you would want to set up your telescope and control it remotely. Like it just doesn't even cross their radar.
Sure.
right? When obviously you'd want to take your C-star, you want to put it under really dark skies, make it really robust so that you can control it, and then you go back home and then you control your telescope, right?
So
From your
over the
living room or whatever.
years that you've been doing this, what I mean, you've started and stopped this enough times. I think you have a passion for it. So, what has been the response that you get from the audience, that like people that aren't actually doing
Oh,
the
they love
telescope
it.
work?
Yeah, they love it. People think it's one of the coolest things they've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have access to this type of stuff, and we
Yeah,
do. So it's like that's why I would like to
yeah,
share that kind of stuff. Is
yeah, totally. Yeah, people
you
think
know,
it's phenomenal. They love it.
and when you're doing one of these live telescope observing sessions, where do you generally kind of host it? Do you host it all over the place, or you're mostly on YouTube, or how do you generally
I
set it
host it
up?
on YouTube.
Yeah. And do you announce when you do these types of
Mhm.
things? Because you're talking
We
about doing it
yeah, I mean,
more.
like, that's always the challenge, right? Which is you wanna announce in advance that you're going to do a thing that's dependent on weather and gear, but w that's what we do, and then we say, "Nope, it's not happening. Didn't work."
I think it'd be really cool, so Sky Safari is like what's running in the background for the Smart Eye, and there's a relatively large number of people who use that. It would be really cool if we had, as I said, kind of a room that you could go to even within a platform. It does kind of walled garden a little bit, where this is able to be interacted with. But if you could have one place where, whether it's ZWO's C Star or the Smart Eye or the Dwarf Lab, but just have within that platform the ability to collaborate with that
Mhm,
similar device, and maybe even from there, then it hosts to like YouTube or something like
mhm,
that. Then at least you can, the collaborative part is kind of out of the way, and the ability to share it still to those other platforms would be pretty neat.
mhm, totally.
So that's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
kind of
like, it's
hoping
just
for.
I think I mean, nobody has so far made an effortless solution for this. Right? So you can
Right.
go with one I've sort of imagined different routes. You can, there's an API that lets you connect to a C star, and I've tried hacking the API to get it to do what I need, and it's been kind of I've been mildly successful, but it wasn't robust and it wasn't working the way that I wanted to. You could go down the ASCOM route and have your own completely, you control the camera, the mount and the all of the various components of a telescope, and then you figure out a way to get all that piped into a custom interface that allows you to control it in a way that's very simple and easy to use and integrates with a tool that lets you find objects in the sky. Like there's different ways that this can be done, but none of them are easy to do in my spare time
Exactly.
with my current level of knowledge with no budget.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
so, I pick away at it and wait for the right, I'm always evaluating the technologies that are out there, and I'm waiting for the right one, the best one. If a software company wants to take this on, like, as you say, Sky Safari, whatever, right? And be able to have the interface of the sky be the way that you navigate the things you want to look at, that would be amazing, right?
mhm.
And then the telescope follows what the interface um to the thing is showing you, right?
You
You
could do all sorts of stuff with that. You could have
Mhm,
people
100%.
kind of request in, certain objects and like vote on
Mhm.
what they want to see next. And
Yeah, or
there's
yeah,
just
or
an
even just as a way to control your own C star or your own smart telescope, right? That you have the app, you pick, but like you need to have the thing be available on the computer. Things need to be able to like how do you if you're using it on an app, how do you get the view of the app
so the way it's currently
streaming out to
working,
OBS?
is that you can interface with it, the Smart Eye, through your browser on any device.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a different take on it.
Yeah.
Currently, you need to be on the same network,
That see
but
okay.
that's where it would become more challenging. But
Yeah.
there are some workarounds there, but it's a little easier to do a workaround with another computer than it is a phone or tablet.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's like the same it's
same
the
issues.
same issue, right? Which is that um you need to be able to have the computer be remote, and it needs to be very easy to use, and then you need to be able to to be able to have the control of the thing be you, so that you can broadcast it with something like OBS or Streamlab or whatever, right? That there's like
Right.
things that need to be all functioning. And a lot of these companies, it's just like literally never occurred to them that you would want a more robust way of controlling the telescope than your iPhone.
Sure.
It's just like,
And
wait, what? You want to do what? You want to sit with a computer that has all of the processing power and all this capability and has these hard drives and has this high-speed connection to the internet and this ability to connect various external devices into it. You want to do that as opposed to be completely limited by what's possible with a phone. Yeah.
yeah.
So
As I start to kind of dive into this and dip my toe into the world that you've been doing for a number of years, I would really love to have you on at some point if you're interested in doing, something with me. This is a dream that I've had now for a number of years of bringing this kind of stuff back because, as I said, we work. I was trying to help you with the star parties
yeah.
back in 2020, and it kind of failed on me, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you experience firsthand what it's like to have the technical failure of your gear.
Right.
So then the next level is that you're trying to manage a show where various people are experiencing technical failures of their gear and trying to make it a consistent experience for people. It's brutal. It's brutally tough. Yeah.
It is brutal.
Yeah.
It's enough when you're, out under the stars and you are having technical difficulties and you're frustrated because you can't get something to work, but it's another thing to be live streaming it to the internet for everybody to see you failing.
How's it going? Have you figured that out yet? No? Still having technical issues? Okay, we'll come back to you later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's just like, for me, it just never felt good enough, never felt acceptable, and wasn't worth sort of expending the energy in this place where I couldn't think of an easy way to get it. Not even an easy way. I couldn't think of a way to get it to what I knew it needed to be. And it's just like, well, I've got other priorities. So for now, I'll let that sit and I'll come back to that idea when I feel like the technology is ready to go. I mean, I think like the idea is still sound. I feel like it's the best idea I've ever had.
Right.
That it's this wonderful place where you can take people who are excited about the night sky and you can connect them with actual telescopes so they can learn just how this technology works to bring us these pictures that everybody is so fascinated and are excited about. But we're not at the place where it's still a dependable and reliable enough experience that it's worth trying to put on a regular show. It's fine for, if you have your own telescope and you want to do some streaming and people can accept the highs and lows of that, that's fine. But for me, I think we're still a few more technological leaps to get to the point where this really is this truly accessible, robust process. But we'll get there, I think.
Well, as I said, I'd really love to have you on again at some point once we, hopefully have some of this technology in place where we can maybe do some of these live stream telescope observations.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
And when I do, I'll certainly be in touch.
I look forward to your struggles.
All right. Thank you so much, Fraser.
All right, thanks,
for coming on. All right, take care.
If you're still listening and like this podcast, please consider becoming one of our Patreon patrons. Memberships start as low as $3 per month, with benefits including opportunities to ask questions of our guests. Also, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast to help us bring the universe even closer than you think.